Just a quick look at the headlines in any given day. It'll give you the idea that the world has gone mad. Welcome to a special SkyWatch TV update, Monday, February 15th, 2016. I'm Derek Gilbert. Joining us in studio, prolific author, writer, lecturer. His most recent book, Days of Chaos, accurately describes the condition we find ourselves in. L.A. Marzulli joining us in studio. L.A.,
great
welcome.
to be here. Thanks, Derek.
The Middle East is on fire.
Yes.
We've got reports of a virus that may or may not, depending on who you ask, be causing massive wave of birth defects in Latin America. We've got Europe in a state of emergency because they're allowing in a million people who don't want to assimilate the European culture. Your book accurately describes all of this. I don't know if you've got a prophetic gift, but it certainly seems timely, if nothing else. What do you see going on, and how do we as Christians process this through a biblical lens?
I think we're looking at the beginning of World War III. I think the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they've coalesced and they want to move the global default currency from the U.S. petrodollar back into the Chinese yuan. You can't do that. And this is, we can see geopolitically that this is, you've got two sides of the coin. You've got the Russians now in the Middle East, absolutely unprecedented. The fact that the Russians are even there in the Middle East, that is, when was the last time that happened? And the Chinese are backing the Russians, the North Koreans are in on that cadre. And of course, this is the BRICS nations. They are backing the Shia branch of Islam. And that Shia crescent goes from Lebanon, Syria, down into Iran and swings over to Yemen. That they control essentially at least 50% of the world's oil coming out of the Gate of Tears and then the Strait of Hormuz, those two narrow choke points and waterways. So this is what we're looking at. And this is what's so interesting, that oil is what, down below $30 a barrel?
$27 a barrel.
I mean, that in itself is really weird. Gas in some places, $1.39 a gallon. When was the last time we saw that? And then added to this, over the Super Bowl, the North Koreans launched a satellite. Oh, so what? We've got satellites. But the problem with this is the North Koreans, with all due respect, are really crazy. Kim Jong-un. And they've threatened us before. And what my greatest fear is the threat of an EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapon. We'll talk about this in Watchers 9. We sat down and talked about the threat of an EMP. Also, Days of Chaos, the book, same deal. An electromagnetic pulse weapon, and now the North Koreans have the technology to do it. By launching a satellite like that, they can arm that. They can arm that missile, essentially, or that rocket, with a nuclear warhead, and we know that they have those. And if they launch that thing and it goes 200 miles into the atmosphere above the heartland, let's say, unfortunately, right where you are right now, in Missouri, Oklahoma, in that area. That sends out an electromagnetic pulse. That short circuits everything electrical. Anything with an on-off switch ceases to work. People don't understand the severity of what this would cause. I mean, millions, if it's in the wintertime, millions will die. Your car doesn't start the next morning. And this catastrophe has a cascading event. The repercussions just continue and continue and continue because the electrical grid is completely gone. Nothing works. And we're basically back pre-industrial revolution times. And that's my greatest fear. But combined with that, you've got this whole financial collapse. I mean, just this week, just a couple of days ago, right? This whole stock market thing, and everybody's running into gold. I think gold shot up $68 in one day or something. Silver, which is being manipulated for decades now, went up like 50 cents. Woo! But the bottom line is, people realize that that fiat currency isn't working anymore. And then the fact that you've got the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, trying to move the Chinese yuan as the default currency.
Right.
I mean, if this thing collapses, if a dollar collapses, just look at what happened in Greece, look what happened in Cyprus several years ago. It's just unbelievable. And, look, when you get an incident like Katrina, we see that the heart of man is deceitfully wicked. I know people don't like to hear that, but it's true. Katrina comes, and what happens? The rise of lawlessness. There's a whole chapter in Days of Chaos talking about the rise of lawlessness. When there's such a thin veneer of civility that separates us from utter chaos, and this is why the book and the DVD are called The Days of Chaos. Everywhere I look, this is what I see. And yet, in the midst of all the chaos, like in Iran, like we talked about in an upcoming show, there's like a revival there. Thousands, tens of thousands of Muslims are changing and becoming Christians. They're becoming born again by the Spirit of a living God, and that's exciting. So I think that we're in this window of time, and I know people have, banging the end time drum here, but I really believe that the King is going to return soon. We are a window of time that is unlike any other. And unfortunately, in the words of Yeshua, unless those days were shortened, no flesh would survive. And that's where we're not there yet. The good news is this is a cosmic regime change. And I love that, because that's what's happening. The God of this world, Hasatan, Satan, is being pushed out. Slowly, but being pushed out. The King will return and establish a literal millennial kingdom on this planet.
Amen. One of the things that we track here at SkyWatch TV, I know you're aware of this as well, is the transhumanist movement.
Sure.
We talked about this on the upcoming episode. And by the way, LA will be featured on 2 future episodes of SkyWatch TV, so watch for those. The drive to radically extend human life, or perhaps even achieve immortality through change in our genetic code, by merging our biology with technology, enhancing our cognitive abilities with by blending our biology with artificial intelligence. We're also seeing a drive to interconnect everything, the Internet of Things. LED light bulbs are produced with a circuit board, so they can wirelessly connect. Not all of them do, but they're all produced with them.
I have some of those. Yeah,
they change the color when you. Yeah. What they don't tell you though is that your light bulb, your smart meter on the outside of the house, are leaking password information, and of course this information is being gathered and collected by the rising technocracy to control. And
all about control.
properly balanced productivity and consumption for our own benefit, of course. But this is also part of that drive that we see in prophecy, that without the mark, that we won't be allowed to buy or sell.
It's
and it'll be justified to us as proper distribution of resources. How far along in this prophetic timeline are we? I mean, I don't think of myself as that old. I've been in this world for half a century, and I can just remember back to a time before we even had air conditioning or a television with a remote.
Yeah.
My grandchildren, are they ever going to see the world in the form that we know it now?
Well, everything is moving. It's accelerating, and that acceleration is it's exponential. I mean, every 6 months, the technology is changing. Knowledge is increasing. Interestingly enough, it ties back into the biblical prophetic narrative, which states, in the latter days, seal up the word, book of Daniel, seal up the words in this book. In the latter days, the end times, men will run to and fro over the face of the earth. And you look at that, you go, that's preposterous. And yet, we've got planes and supersonic planes and satellites and everything else. We've got, with the internet and the connectivity that we have through that, we see when the Fukushima earthquake happens, 9.1, we watch the tidal wave come in. We watch that in real time. Real time. We just, munching the popcorn. Oh, look, that guy didn't make it. I mean, but that's where we are as a culture. And then knowledge will increase. And we are here. If this isn't it, I'll shave my head and become a Buddhist. I mean, I say that, tongue in cheek. The signs are here. And it's all firing on all 8 cylinders. And what bothers me is there's sections of Christendom which won't even look at the biblical prophetic narrative. And yet we know that at least 1/3 of the Bible is prophetic in nature. And yet, I've been to churches, and some of those churches for years, I've, been tithed there and worked there, not a word about prophecy. And yet when we see happening over in the Middle East, specifically around Israel, we see the rise of anti-Semitism. That in itself is unprecedented. I haven't seen this since what happened right around in the 30s with Hitler. The rise of Semitism, it's a global, and that, in my opinion, is being fueled by a supernatural power. A supernatural force is behind the virulent anti-Semitism, which has become a global phenomenon, in my opinion.
At the beginning of the year, there was an article published in the New York Times about the gentleman who was in charge, the general in charge of our operations in the Middle East, General Nagata, who said that we can't get a handle, we can't understand what is motivating the Islamic State. We can't get a handle on it. And they brought together a think tank, which included experts in social media and in marketing, college marketing professors, to try to understand how the branding strategy of the Islamic State was attracting followers.
From all over the world, by the way.
From all over the world. Yeah. Why do you think our government apparently has such a difficult time, and Western governments in general, have such a difficult time understanding what the Islamic State is about and what motivates it?
I think that's a great question, and I'm sort of mystified. I think that it's a liberal ideology, which somehow really doesn't really look at what the problem is. And I mean, it's just so obvious that the ideology of Islam is not going to go away. And once these people become radicalized, like ISIS or ISIL, depending on, which name you want to use, because the original name, ISIS talks about the Islamic State of Syria and the Levant, ISIL.
Right.
And the Levant is Israel, and that's the goal. The Muslim Brotherhood, the same thing. That's the goal. And it amazes me how they have to have a think tank. All one needs to do is just look at what these people are saying. Look what Safwat Higazi is saying, this fiery imam from the Muslim Brotherhood, when Morsi was running. We will set up a caliphate, and the capital of that caliphate will be in Jerusalem. And he states it emphatically. I mean, no, he's not trying to, pussyfoot around the thing. I mean, he's just like, the caliphate, the capital of the caliphate will be Jerusalem. Same thing with the Iranians. They talk about, getting Tel Aviv, eradicating the Jews. ISIS, the same thing. I mean, it's radical Islam and the jihadis have one goal, and that is world domination through some sort of a caliphate. What's interesting, the Saudis are trying to establish a caliphate by creating madrasas and funding and giving millions of dollars to our universities to start courses on Islamic studies. And they come in the back door that way. The Iranians are doing the same thing with their proxy, and certainly in Lebanon, certainly in Syria, and now in Yemen. It's the whole Shia crescent, which we see burgeoning. And then you've got the dreams of a caliphate by ISIS. I mean, they're all vying for the same thing. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what is happening.
You can just read their magazine. They're telling you.
Just read what's going on, and you know that there's a undercurrent here, and that is to establish a worldwide, global Islamic state.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
And yet we keep hearing from Western government officials who believe
that's not what they want.
No, what they want is jobs.
Yeah, nonsense.
And a jobs program will solve it all.
Yeah.
It's like trying to figure out why the car won't run, and by changing, well, maybe if we put in a different type of fuel, the car will run, ignoring the fact that there are no wheels on the car. That's why they can't. Yeah.
There you go.
L.A. Marzulli is the author of the new book, Days of Chaos, Watchers 9, Days of Chaos, the most recent entry in the excellent Watchers DVD series. L.A., where do people follow your work? LAMarzulli.net, also ppsreport.com. That's our new TV show, which we're just about launching right now. LAMarzulli.net, ppsreport.com. And they can avail themselves of daily updates and all sorts of goodies. And keep your eyes on SkyWatch TV, because he will be a guest on future episodes of SkyWatch TV, and we'll have some special offers on some of LA's work then. In the meanwhile, we thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.